So, X-Men Apocalypse. What does one say about a movie like this? Well, let's compare it to X-Men Last Stand. Yeah, it's on that level. Spoilers from here on. I wouldn't call it a downfall exactly, but the downfall in this film is the abundance of new characters that don't get enough time to tell their own stories, in addition to the older cast who are in the same boat. There's only a minimum of 15 characters that are featured mainly in this movie, and 8 of them are new to this First Class trilogy. The introductions to the newer cast was rather enjoyable. It shows different ends of the spectrum of where the mutants are. Having Scott slash Cyclops finally have a relationship in the films makes an interesting combination. Scott probably more than most had a good small arc of learning to use his powers and not feeling ashamed of them. We really haven't had much of a sibling relationship in these movies, so I think it was good having the actual connection between Cyclops and Havoc. I think having more or less unknown actors play the newer generation of heroes was a great casting choice. Alexandra Shipp especially shines as the younger Aurora Monroe. Magneto sort of has a Wolverine type of story where he works in a steel mill, he tries to be normal with a family, and it sort of works for him, but the story only lasts during the first act before he joins the other 4 mindless drones. Havoc actually has more screen time in this movie compared to his cameo-like appearance in the last film. Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique doesn't really seem too interested in being the character anymore, but I guess she does a subpar job with the scenes that she has. Her role in the film seems really forced upon her. I feel like many of the actors were wasted to only 1 or 2 scenes. Otherwise, they were just shoved aside to background characters in group scenes. There's really no big action scenes through most of the movie. There's only 1 of 2 that comes to mind, and the second one is pretty much the climax of the film. A few small ones about trying to survive a cave collapsing or a town getting destroyed, but it takes over an hour to get to the first big action piece, and it's Quicksilver's scene where he saves the children of Xavier's school. While the scene is a tad entertaining, mainly because the upbeat music takes place during a dramatic scene, so it's funny that way. But it feels like an extended rehashing of his scene in the previous film. The scene in particular was probably the only useful thing that Quicksilver did the entire movie. Other than that, he didn't do much. His character, like I said, was wasted. As surprising as it is, General Stryker seems like a more formidable foe this time around than Apocalypse even could compare to. I think if the movie went more of a governmental threat, which I know it has before, but it works. I think if they would have went that way over an ancient villain who gives more speeches over action, the movie probably would have ran smoother. There are way too many subplots that made the film seem overstuffed. Hugh Jackman's brief cameo was a bit out of the blue, but it helped the plot, but it was also a rehashing of X-Men Origins, which wasn't that great, let's be honest. The film, like X-Men Last Stand, ended its trilogy on a much flatter note than the 2 preceding films. Compared to films such as Cap Civil War and the preceding Marvel films, I feel like this movie could have done so much more at showcasing the powers and how to work together. It feels like everyone is taking turns, like a video game, instead of it being a flowing, seamlessly fight. It's, or you do your move, I wait for you to do your move. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give the film a 4. The visuals and the newer cast made things somewhat enjoyable, but the recycled, cliched, and predictable plot is probably the biggest flaw. I guess we get another of many superhero franchises that don't know how to end a trilogy.